You are now tuned in to the Windy City Benders podcast. This is WCBP.
All right, welcome to episode 98 of the Windy City Bender podcast. We are calling this one the Eagle because guess what? The Eagles has landed for the show.
Yeah.
We just had
The
an incredible interview with Hockey Hall of Famer, hockey legend, Ed Belfour.
Ed Belfour.
Yeah. Great guy. Absolutely a pleasure to talk with. Gets into some great
If you guys
stories.
get the chance, definitely give him a call, chat him up. He's a great guy.
I mean, he gave some great insight. We heard a lot about his new whiskey company.
Yes.
And it sounds very, very exciting.
Definitely something I'll be looking out for.
So
I bet you guys won't be able to guess what the name of the whiskey is. You just have to wait till the interview.
yeah. So, I didn't think about this as we were getting ready to record just now. Today, with this being uploaded, it's officially 3 years of the Windy City Bender podcast.
No shit.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy that we went from sitting in a little table in Noli's basement using one microphone that could barely pick up everybody to 3 years later we are talking with one of arguably the greatest goalies in NHL history.
One of hands down the greatest undrafted player and undrafted goalie in NHL history for sure. One of the best Blackhawks goalies in history for sure.
Yeah. God, it's such a shame he couldn't win with us. Fuck. There's so many Hawks from his time that they fucking deserved a cup in Chicago.
Oh God, yeah.
But
it's also crazy to me that for how good he was during a time when there was so many good fucking goalies. He won trophies too. So it just shows he's fucking awesome.
Yeah, so we get into a lot about that kind of stuff with him. So we'll get to that in a little bit. We do got a little bit of Hawks talk going on.
Just a little bit, something small, nothing too
something
big.
Small. We'll start with something really tiny small. Brett Seabrook came out and said today that he is feeling great after his 3 surgeries, and he's really looking forward to get back on the ice.
I'm just wondering if that's just Brent Seabrook just saying that just because he wants to be back on the ice, and maybe he feels like a shit, and he still just wants to be out there.
Yeah,
because that's how badass he is. I love him.
Take that for what you will. It's going to be interesting too. Just you don't know if he's just trying to play up to the front office that he still can play, and there's no need to give up on him yet. But that might all be for nothing because he might have to be playing up to a new front office very soon.
Why is that, Jarom?
Breaking news earlier
Not
this
really.
week.
Not breaking news at all.
Earlier this week, the Blackhawks announced that they have fired team president and CEO John McDonough after 13 years. Well, 12 and a half, but that was very shocking because
he helped to orchestrate the 3 Stanley Cup teams. He helped to come up with the 1 goal motto.
He brought the Hawks convention.
Yeah.
He started that. But what makes it so shocking is that it was almost like a month to the date where Rocky came out and said that he has faith and he believes in McDonough and Bowman to right the ship and get this team back to where they belong. So it's kind of really interesting. Hasn't really come out yet. I don't think we will ever truly know what happened.
I know what happened.
What happened?
He went out in public without a mask. And so Bowman was like, I can't have that in my organization.
You mean Rocky?
Oh, yeah, Rocky. Oh, my God, no. Oh, no. Well, it just goes into, what we're going to be talking about, though, is just because, what does this mean for Bowman, though? If his buddy's gone.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many questions out there right now, and we wish there's more answers. Poets sent us a little screen grab of Mark Lazarus' article in The Athletic, pretty much talking about the tone, because I didn't read the whole article, but the tone I got from the little passage he sent, he wasn't happy about the firing. He went on and was basically saying, was it McDonough that signed Seabrook to his deal? No, it was Bowman. Was it?
Yes.
Was it McDonough that's
Yes. You're saying it's Lazarus that was upset with
right? Yeah.
That's the first
Lazarus.
step.
Yeah.
Is it McDonough's fault at all for any of the signings, any of the trades,
yes,
or the
exactly.
way that the defense is steadily playing terribly? Like, that's Colliton. But I think we both agree that even though he's not directly responsible for those issues, he's responsible for correcting the people that are making those problems. And he hasn't like cut off like Bowman from that. So he's responsible through Bowman. And I guess the first move is to get McDonough out of there, because apparently he won't do anything about firing Bowman. So they're going to fire McDonough, bring somebody else in. And then I'm assuming it's their job, and their first thing to do is to fire Bowman.
It's kind of like when you see like a new GM get fired, then it's like there's choices don't get made about the head coach until the new GM comes in and lets him pick it.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody who's waiting to see Bowman get fired or hear what's going to happen with Bowman, it's not going to happen until we have the new team president. Right now, Daniel Wirtz is going to be the interim president for the team. He is being put in charge of also finding essentially his replacement, the new team president. So it's just going to have to be kind of a wait and see what direction they go.
True.
So that kind of also brings up the question that when you're looking at the new guy, what do you want to see? Do you want to see them go and hire somebody from inside the organization? Do you want to see them hire somebody outside? I know Bowman's name has been tossed out there as a potential promotion up into the team president.
Just get him out of the GM spot.
Yeah.
Honestly, that doesn't bother me. Like, I don't know. Like, because the thing that happened was McDonough came from like the Cubs.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you need hockey knowledge in order to like do that position. It's more of a business role.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what kind of input I should give to that, because it's like I don't like, you could sure go with a hockey minded player, but then are you now getting too much input from your president and CEO on hockey operations that the GM should be responsible for, or do you go out and get somebody completely out of left field that doesn't have an idea about like the hockey ops but is a business person, and then maybe they go about hiring the wrong kind of GM for like the team?
Yeah.
You know,
there was, I wish I saved it and I can remember who did it, because I feel so bad like bringing it up, but there was a reporter saying that what he would actually love to see is possibly them bringing two guys, one that would strictly just be business side, and then one strictly hockey ops. So he would be in charge of like
a co-president,
kind of, yeah, which I think would be an interesting take. But you're also paying like
a co-branch manager.
Yeah. Here and then what's even crazy though, I'm hearing this kind of stuff like that, and it just shows you what kind of world we live in now, that post-COVID, post potential billions of dollars of revenue loss for the NHL and the teams, are they going to be cutting down on their front office and all that? Because, you know, like, it's kind of stuff you got to look at too. It's like, what are they willing to pay these people too?
I mean, we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully it turns out well, because like the downhill slide that we're going on is pretty annoying to watch. You know, also this is a mid-season firing. I just like,
in the greatest air quotes of all time.
Yeah, it's like what Noli wrote in our group chat. It's just like, man, mid-season, can't believe it. It's like, that's so underrated. I love it.
It's just really weird going from 1 month ago hearing, oh yeah, nothing's going to change, to, all right, well, we're starting from scratch almost. But you know what? I'm happy for it. I think this team needs a fresh look. They need a new set of eyes to come in here, because the old ways clearly wasn't working, and it's time to bring someone in and possibly, you know, right the ship and not waste the prime of Taves and Kane.
Yeah. I mean, they're not getting any younger, and you can't just keep waiting, you know?
Yeah. I know we say it before, where we're like, oh yeah, there's only, you know, 5 or 6 years left, but Kane's number keeps going up. But theoretically, you know, he's he's going to be coming to an end pretty quicker than
quicker than we'd want.
Yeah, quicker than we want. Yeah,
but not like very quickly.
It'll be here way before we realize.
True, but that's going to be when he's like 45 and he's only going to put up like a 70-point season. And you'll be like, what's going on with his game? Is he losing us up?
Yeah. Yager was like what, 46, 47, like.
Yeah. We just can you imagine playing like 21 years of hockey for one organization?
God.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be awesome. You don't see it now, but it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard. I know one topic I wrote down here is, who would you want to possibly see step in that role, but not knowing what exactly they're looking for, it's kind of hard to say.
Bill Gates.
Yeah. One name
way out of there.
One name that keeps getting tossed out is Olchek. A lot of people believe that it's inevitable that he is going to have a front office role.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Can you see him as a team president?
I don't know how to look at a team president.
Yeah.
Like, what are the good qualities of a team president? Because what I know about John McDonough is fairly little. Like, personally, and like the way that he makes decisions is fairly little. I just know that he's the team president.
Yeah. So, but guess what to see. No, and other people kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but I mean that brings up a bunch of questions about the status of Bowman and Jarom McCallitons and this coaching staff. Everybody that listens to the show or anybody that knows me knows what my opinion is. So Tanner,
You're in love.
So I don't know. What do you theoretically do you think this is the end of Bowman?
Well, I think that if you're gonna start at the top, you're gonna end up cleaning house and. Like, I mean, do what you can with the players, but anybody that's going to get in that position probably is going to end up interviewing everybody that's already in positions just to see if they fit the role that they are looking forward. Like, if they have a plan, do they fit in this plan? And if they don't, it's easy enough to just be like, all right, well, you're no longer with us because you have no ties to anybody. You're brand new. But I feel like it's a sign of like, I don't think Bowman's going to end up being here another like 5 years or even 2 years because like unless all of a sudden whatever like happens and the Blackhawks start making the playoffs and like they just didn't make that move and it's like, all right, well, I guess he's chill now, like whatever.
I can't see him completing the 2021 season as our GM.
Yeah, unless he completely fleeces somebody in a trade and we just get like stacked or something. Like, I don't know. Yeah,
and then it goes back to Jarom McCallitons too. Like, I know we say it a lot. Like, I feel so bad for that guy. Like, he got thrown into a situation that he was not ready for.
Oh, yeah.
He 100%, I think, has the quality to be a great NHL coach and could be one of the best, but he just simply, didn't have it yet. Need to develop a little bit longer.
It's fucking sirens always. Because nobody stays inside. Can you stop, please?
Right. Perks of living in Chicago.
Yeah, baby, that's right. Thank you. Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, like one of the things I'm nervous about is like I don't want this to drag out and then have it be a situation like in Minnesota where like the GM makes a bunch of moves that are stupid and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, get him out of here. Like,
right, yeah.
I don't want it to drag out and then have Bowman just be like, all right, fuck it. Like,
same thing with New Jersey when they traded Taylor Hall. Like, oh, that's all we got. And they're like, okay, now you're gone. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, that would be scary to me. It'd be like, oh, yeah, here, you can have Kane. Oh, we'll take a 7th rounder. That's fine.
Yeah. Do you think that they do you think right now they're like, okay, Bowman, you got no say, nothing right now. You can't trade. You can't. Like Bowman's just going to like.
He's texting other like GMs like, yo, you up?
Yeah.
You want to make a trade?
But it's interesting too because the Chicago Bulls are literally doing the exact same thing right now. They brought a new president, they're bringing a new GM and all that. Yep. They came out and said that the Blackhawks didn't make this move because of what the Bulls were doing, which you figured it wasn't going to be the case, but it's kind of interesting that, two teams that share the same arena and are kind of going through, I mean, the Bulls a longer period of sucking, but
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's just kind of really interesting that that's happening. But hey, gives us something to talk about during this never-ending lockdown. So
Yeah. So chill. Oh my
but
God. Yeah. I don't know. I want things to. I want COVID to go down and I want the Blackhawks to go up. That's what I want. These are the kind of graphs I want, man. It's like Jesus.
flatten one curve and then fuck the other curve. Let it go.
Yeah, just make the other one exponential. Like
Yeah.
the dubs. Get those dubs, baby.
Yeah, and kind of more of the same. They're like picking up talks about possibly playing again this year, but it's coming out that a lot of players are saying that if there is anything where they would have to be away from their families for the entire duration of it, that they're going to vote against it.
Yeah. That was Philip Deneau.
Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so weird still. I mean, every time we talk about it, it's just, it's very strange.
and they're talking about they're prepared to start the next season in December, get rid of All-Star game and the bye weeks.
Well, the All-Star game is what I look forward to every year. It's the only game. What about the Winter Classic?
Yeah, where's that even at this year, the All-Star game?
You mean the Winter Classic or the All-Star game?
All-Star game.
I don't know. Oh, Florida?
Yeah, Minnesota's the...
Oh, Carolina, maybe?
Carolina's a stadium series.
Oh, fuck me, man.
But
I'm going to look it up, so give me a second. You say stuff.
I will say stuff. Also announced recently that they are officially following the NFL.
It's in Florida. I was right.
It's in Florida. Okay. Oh, yeah, because everybody's doing like the Miami Vice jerseys.
Yes.
That's right.
Sick.
Yeah.
Those mock-ups that people have been doing online are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they also announced that they're following the NFL lead and they're doing the draft virtually. Virtual.
Sorry, Montreal.
Yeah, which it's a bummer because I'm not even going to attempt to say his name because I'll butcher it.
Alexis Lafreniere.
Yes, is projected to go to number 1, and that would have been in his home Providence, and people were jacked for it. So
yeah,
that's a bummer. But
can you imagine if he just didn't go number 1 though?
Can you imagine how awesome it's going to be when we screw Detroit and we get the first overall pick in the draft lottery and we pick him up?
Yes. Thanks, Bowman.
All right, mark it in this episode 98. If we end up getting the first overall pick in the draft lottery, I will take everything back from what I've said about Bowman.
That has nothing to do with whatever Bowman does.
Exactly.
It's completely luck.
I know.
Wait, say thank you.
Oh my God. Okay, so with that being said, let's head on over to the interview.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it was a great talk with him, and we really think you guys are going to enjoy it. Make sure you visit all his social media and his website, BelfourSpirits.com, Belfour Spirits on Facebook and Instagram. He tells all the cool stuff's on the website, and some actually really cool stuff. And it has a where to find the whiskey at. And
yeah, there's a locator on there.
Yeah, so
definitely
check it out. And we'll see you on episode 99.
Well, yeah. Okay. Love you, boys. See ya.
So to say that we have a special guest today might be the biggest undersell in this history of this show. Today we are joined by a NCAA national champion with North Dakota, 1999 Stanley Cup champion with the Dallas Stars, 2002 Olympic gold medalist with Team Canada. He's a Calder Trophy winner, 2-time Vezina winner, 4-time Jennings winner, 4th most wins in NHL history with 484, and he's also the 2011 Hall of Famer, the Eagle himself, Ed Belfour. Ed, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me, guys.
Really appreciate it. How are you? How you hanging in there right now with the COVID and all that stuff going on?
Yeah, I stay busy. I've always worked from home since the end of my career, so it hasn't changed a lot for me, other than not getting the opportunity to go out for some nice dinners and go to the movies once in a while. So I work from home and I stay busy with our business and try to work out every day and just to keep myself occupied.
Awesome, man. Glad to hear that you're staying safe out there. So, we'll just start at the beginning. So you went undrafted, but then you decided to sign with the Chicago Blackhawks. What was it about Chicago in the organization that made you decide that this would be a good place to start your career?
Yeah, so growing up in Canada, back in the 70s, I was born in 65. So we had the original 6 back then. And where I grew up, we only had 3 TV stations to watch on television, black and white. And I know some of you people are probably laughing pretty hard at this, but yeah, we only had three channels to choose from. And on every Saturday night, most Canadian families would gather around their TV and watch hockey right in Canada. And so my favorite team back then as a kid was the Chicago Blackhawks. And my favorite players were Tony Esposito, Stan Mikita, and Bobby Hull. And my mom's favorite team was the Maple Leafs, and my dad's was the Canadiens. So we always had a good rivalry going in the house. And so, I always wanted to be a Blackhawk. And, I mean, not many kids get to fulfill the dream of actually playing in the NHL, but, getting to play on your favorite team even more so. So I was so lucky and blessed to be able to start my career with the Blackhawks.
I can only imagine that that when you got to put that pen to that paper for that contract, it was a little surreal for you.
Yeah, it sure was. I didn't even make my high school hockey team back in Carman, Manitoba, and through some a bit of fortune and luck and a lot of help from teachers, they helped me get through school and get my SATs in order, and ended up playing on the high school championship team for the Carman Cougars, which kind of gave me the opportunity to get a chance to play for the Winkler Flyers in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. It's a Tier 2 junior, and that allows you to get scholarships to the U.S. The University of North Dakota was only 2.5 hours away from where I grew up in Manitoba, so I wanted to play for the Fighting Sioux. And I went there as a 21-year-old freshman, so very late bloomer. Played 3 years of Tier 2, undrafted. Nobody really knew who I was because, in Manitoba it wasn't scouted that much, and I don't think it was given much thought as a very competitive league, which that's not the case. It was very competitive, very tough to play in. Maybe didn't have the most skill in all of junior hockey, but it was a good place for me to start. And fortunately, the University of North Dakota offered me a scholarship, and went from Winkler to North Dakota. In 1986-87, I was part of the Fighting Sioux, and we won the NCAA championship that year. As a freshman, I played half the games and played all the playoff games. We were 40 wins, 8 losses, and they called our team the Dream Team. So I'm very proud of that fact. And I was a free agent, and that was when I got my chance to sign with the Blackhawks. So that's how it all started.
That's such a great start. Like, not very many players you see get that at all, but that's amazing that you got that opportunity, and we're really glad that happened for us too. I noticed that when you finally started starting games in Chicago, in your first 4 years, you played almost like every game, to a point where it was like 74 games in one season, and then like 71 and 70, and that's not something you really see much anymore with the current NHL. Like, at any point were you just feeling completely gassed, or were you always just extremely excited to be playing the NHL and getting that opportunity to just take on every single game that you possibly can?
Yeah, I was always very excited. I wanted to play every game. Came from a background of playing a lot of sports and always working out, and part of my training regimen back then was doing triathlons. So I was in really good shape. And Mike Keenan, our coach there in Chicago, and Daryl Sutter, they really pushed us. E.J. McGuire, he was a great runner. He would always do all our track workouts, and they all pushed us really hard to be in great shape. And so it went right along with my philosophy about the game. And I think it really helped me be able to play that many games. Now, mind you, playing that many games, you have to take advantage of the times for naps and rest. And I remember, getting on buses and getting on airplanes, and I'd be falling asleep in minutes. So, you had to really work at, getting your rest, proper nutrition. And there were times that I was tired, and, you just learn how to get around those times and figure out, how to play your best. So you have to always be your best on the ice. And, as my career went on, I didn't play in the 70s anymore, but still played in the 60s. And, that's a lot of games. Nowadays, seems like the schedule is pretty condensed. So probably pretty tough for those guys to play that many games. They don't get as much time to rest as we did. I remember there were times between games, there was sometimes 4 days, and 4 days is a lot. Nowadays, they don't get hardly any days. Usually one and a bit. Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned playing for Mike Keenan. He's kind of got like this reputation around the league, and a lot of players had different opinions of him. How was he like when you played for him, or like what was your like overall opinion of him?
Well, I love Mike. He gave me my opportunity to be in the NHL, and he played me all those games, and really gave me my start. And very thankful for that. And there were some tough times, of course. Mike was a pretty tough coach, rigid, and he expected things to be a certain way. And sometimes he'd push you, and sometimes he'd push you a little hard, and I'd push back a little bit. But our goals were the same. We wanted to win every game and do whatever it takes to win. And so I would have done anything, and I tried to do whatever I could, whatever he asked. So, we're still good friends, always happy to see him, and always wish him the best of luck wherever he's at.
Do you have any particular favorite memories from your time in Chicago?
Well, I think for me is, just every time you go to the arena and get a chance to sit in the stands and look up in the rafters at all the banners, and I got to be there the night. I just so happened to be called up that few games, and that night I was there when they put Bobby Hall, Stan Mikita, Glenn Hall, and Tony Esposito's jerseys up in the rafters. I was on the bench. They were out there at center ice with their wives, and they're all dressed up in their suits and beautiful dresses. And I remember sitting on the bench, just being in awe and having tears in my eyes. And I was so lucky to be part of that. That was definitely one of my favorite memories. And of course, the national anthem. You couldn't beat the national anthem.
It's such a good
amazing
one.
Yeah.
And you had Tretiak as a goalie mentor while you were in Chicago, and we know that you ended up taking the number 20 when you ended up going to San Jose. Can you just talk about how much of a mentor he was to you, and what it meant to how much it meant to you, because you ended up changing your number?
Yeah. So growing up in Canada again, the Summit Series of 1972 was the first time all the NHL All-Stars played against the Red Army Russian team, which those guys had played together since they 5-6 years old. They were the best of the best, and they had played together so many tournaments and won so many world championships. This was to see who had the best hockey players in the world. And, if you remember, the Russian team was beaten Team Canada quite badly in the beginning. And, it took a lot of grit to come back, but we ended up coming back and winning that Summit Series with Paul Henderson's famous goal. But Tretiak was the goalie for the Red Army team, and he was amazing. And, he was only, I think, 19 or 20 years old at that time, but, touted as the best goalie in the world. And so, back then when us kids were playing street hockey and floor hockey and stuff, and if you were going to play goal, for me, I was going to be, Tony Esposito or Rogie Vachon. Those were my favorites, and then Vladislav Tretiak. So, even though it was back then, most people didn't like the Russians, but we respected their hockey talents because of that 72 Summit Series and all their world championships. So Tretiak being the goalie, and we just all respected him. And then when I was in the minors with the Blackhawks, I was sent to the minors playing for Team Canada, actually, my third year in the minors, and traveled around the world and got to play in different tournaments in different countries. And one of the tours was in Canada, playing against a Russian team, and Tretiak was there on that tour. And I was so excited to get the opportunity to play in front of Vladislav. I just knew, I wanted to play my best game. And first time he saw me play, I think I had like 40-some shots, and we won 2-1. And he came into the locker room after the game and shook my hand. He couldn't speak very good English, but he's like, "Good game." And I was just like in awe, And so were the guys in the locker room. They knew who he was, and he was just like one of the best hockey ambassadors. He shook all of our hands, and he just congratulated us. And then it turns out that Mike Keenan hired him about 2 months later, and he's the goalie coach in Chicago. So how lucky was I to get to play in front of him, show him what I could do. And then he became our goalie coach, and he didn't speak hardly any English at the beginning. So we had to have an interpreter on the ice with us. And here's how good he was. He put on the pads a couple times with us for the Blackhawks practices, and nobody could score on him. And Keenan was like, "We need to sign him up."
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a good thing he turned it down. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have had a job.
Yeah, especially like at that time, he's like in his later 30s at that point, right?
Yeah, he was. I think, yeah, he
That's
still
pretty
could
amazing.
play. Yeah.
So let's this is one question that always gets brought up when we talk about you. I don't know if you get asked this a lot, but you have probably the most iconic goalie mask in not even NHL history, in hockey history. When you got that Eagle mask or decided on that Eagle mask, did you know it was going to leave this like long legacy with it?
No, not at all. And, I was just fortunate enough to get one of those masks. Back in those days, not all of us got to get a nice custom-made mask. We all started out with helmets, hockey helmets with screens on them, and they weren't very protective. So I was given the opportunity to speak with Greg Harrison. He was the goalie mask maker back in that day. He's out of Toronto. And I asked him to put a mean-looking bird on the mask, and he chose an eagle. And then Mike Keenan, ever since I got that mask, he started calling me Eddie the Eagle, and it just stuck. And, the mask evolved into, different versions and different colors. And it was a lot of fun working on the mask, and I enjoyed the art side of it and, hiding the eagle and the feathers. And it was just very fun, but not expected.
Yeah, it's an amazing mask. I love that the eagle kind of evolved with the mask as well, going a little bit more realistic at times and some cartoonish at sometimes. But I wanted to just before we finish talking about the hockey playing career, we just wanted to talk about the Stanley Cup that you won and how it ended up being like the longest game in playoff history for a cup clincher. And just wanted to pick your brain on what was going through your head is you're in overtime and the first overtime ends and then the second one ends and then you're heading into the third one. What was just kind of going through your head there?
Yeah. So, being a veteran, I've been in quite a few overtime games, and you just try to stay focused on the puck and the next save. You try not to play the clock or the scoreboard at all. Don't let the fans get in your head, and you just stay focused and just treat it like any other game. And, ever since I was 4 or 5 years old, we've been playing for the Stanley Cup, on the streets and floor hockey, river hockey, pond hockey. It was always for the cup. and you'd always pretend you were in double, triple overtime, game 7 for the Stanley Cup. So I just tried to tell myself it's just another one of those pond hockey games, and stay calm and just stay focused, and try not to get overwhelmed by anything. The team was playing great. I was on my game that game, and guys were getting IVs in between periods and trying to do whatever they could to get nutrition for energy. Myself, what worked for me was a milkshake. We had one of our trainers run upstairs and make me a milkshake, run back down really quickly, and I slurped that down, and that's what gave me a lot of energy for that third overtime, and it came through for me. Like I felt great again. It was like I was totally rejuvenated, and I just kept focused on the puck, and that's what you got to do, is just focus on your job. Don't think about the outcome. Don't think about the Stanley Cup being in the house, and it's there, but you can't think about any of that.
How good?
It was an amazing moment, when Brett scored the goal.
Yeah.
And I was delayed in my reaction because I couldn't see for sure, and I was just didn't want to look like an idiot and skate down there and then there's no goal. So
that's pretty great.
Yeah, it was amazing. A dream come true. Something I'll never forget.
How good was it, that feeling when you get handed the cup and just lift it over your head?
Yeah, there's only maybe one other feeling like that, and that's the birth of your children. And it's an amazing moment that you worked for since like 4 or 5 years old, played for it, in all the street hockey games, and you get handed that cup, and it's an amazing, incredible, epic moment. And I just screamed at the top of my voice, and I think I screamed like that for a while. So and we were all doing it, and it's just those are moments and people that you'll never forget for the rest of your life.
So you got Stanley Cup and having your children up there pretty high up. Well, where does like getting the call that you're elected into the Hockey Hall of Fame kind of end up on that list of excitement?
Well, that's definitely exciting, but at the same time, as for me, being part of the sweater banners for my favorite players being put up in the Chicago Stadium, I honestly didn't know a lot about the Hockey Hall of Fame, but when I got the call, I was totally surprised and just honored. You don't realize what it means, or I didn't at that moment. But once I got to Toronto and I, was met at the airport, chauffeured to the Air Canada Center, and you just like, all of a sudden you're like overwhelmed. Like you didn't realize like how big of a weekend this was and is. And just because I'd never been part of any kind of Hockey Hall of Fame event before. I never saw one on TV. I knew how important it was to players, but I just did not realize, the grand weekend that they put on for all the guys being inducted and girls being inducted, and the former players that show up for it. And it's just like an amazing weekend the Hockey Hall of Fame and the NHL put on together, and so much fun. You get to meet a lot of the players that you grew up watching that you didn't meet, and you get to shake their hands and be a part of the group. And I mean, just like I said, a little bit overwhelming. And then you get up and you got to say your speech. And I had a speech all written out ahead of time, and it probably would have lasted about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes even, up there talking. And then they tell us the day, I think it was the day before, they tell us, oh, and by the way, you guys, you only have 5 minutes to talk. So I was like, oh my gosh. I had this whole big speech written, and I had to shorten it down to 5 minutes. So there were a lot of people that I wanted to thank that I didn't, and that was kind of a shame. You don't expect that part, but when it comes to TV and stuff, I get it. But there were so many people that help you along the way, that help you get to each and every step along the way, like playing junior hockey and then playing for the Fighting Sioux, and then turning pro. You don't get to do that all by yourself. It just doesn't happen that way. I mean, some guys may, but I don't think so. I thank all those people, and having my name be one of the first ballots. I think at the time there was only 20 some players that were first balloters, and that's even another huge honor. So,
and what's even more impressive too is that you are one of 7 undrafted players to get into the Hall of Fame as well.
Wow, I didn't know that one.
Just doing some looking up some stats and everything, and I thought that was pretty noteworthy. I was like, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, wow, that's great. Well, like I said, I'm very honored, very thankful, and proud for sure.
So you go from one absolutely amazing career, now you're on to another one. You started up Belfour Spirits. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of like how it got started and where it came from?
Yeah, so my son Dane, who's 30 years old now, he was also a goalie, and his career ended just after mine did. And we were trying to figure out something that we could do together as a family business. And we started researching different business opportunities. And, we started looking into the vodka business. And at the time, there were a lot of companies, so that market was pretty saturated. So we started looking into brown spirits, rum, and whiskey. And it turned out that the whiskey market was just starting to take off. This is about 6-7 years ago. And we decided, let's order a still. Let's start making some whiskey and see if we're good at it. So we ordered a still, and quickly found out that it was highly illegal for us to make our own whiskey at home even. And we decided, well, we better do it the right way so I don't get deported from the U.S. and kicked out of the country. But anyway, we went to school. We learned how to make the juice. We learned all of the legalities of whiskey making, spirits making, and our first school was in Kelowna, BC. We learned a lot there, and then we went to Moonshine University in Louisville, Kentucky, learned even more, and we met a lot of people in the business who, again, like anything, if you want to be successful, it's good to surround yourself with experienced and knowledgeable people, and we met a lot of those type of people at Moonshine University. We still consult with 3 different people from that school, and we started making our whiskey. We have approximately 2,300 barrels aging. We got on the shelves in October of last year. Late October, I think it was November of last year. And so we have our Texas Pecan Bourbon. It's a very smooth bourbon, 92 proof, very easy to drink. We want to have all our products very easy and smooth with good flavor, character, good aromas. Our regular rye whiskey, it won awards already. So did our straight rye whiskey, limited edition. That particular product is the one with the chalice on top of it. And we only made 12 barrels of it. And Dane made those 12 barrels himself while he was doing an internship at Woody Creek Distillery. It's in Basalt, Colorado. We're very thankful to the folks there at Woody Creek for giving Dane the opportunity to come in there and get some experience. And he made those first 12 barrels, and the whiskey turned out just an amazing. I think Dane called me, if I remember right, he filled the last barrel and he was sipping on the White Dog, and he was like, "Dad, it's amazing. It just smells great. It tastes great. And he was crying. He was so, emotional about filling that last barrel.
Just like a little baby.
Yeah, that's right. So it's his baby. And so we're so proud of those. There's only about 2,700 bottles total. And that's the one with the chalice on top.
Well, as a former goalie myself and a current bartender, it definitely piques my interest when I hear about the whiskey that you have. And I'm just out of curiosity, like, do you have any plans of any other whiskeys in the future? Maybe one with like a larger or like a longer age statement, or anything that's more of like a cask strength at all that you know about?
Yeah. So as we grow, our whiskeys are growing and aging, and I'm always working on new projects, new formulas, new barrel projects to age the whiskeys. Right now, we do have some cask strength stuff that's coming along just fabulous. So we will eventually have what I like to classify as a top cask strength whiskey, something like the Elijah Craig cask strength. Like that's one of my favorites. It's like anywhere from I think 127 proof all the way up to 135 proof. Some of it. You can only put it in the barrel at 125 proof, but where it ages depends on whether the proof goes up or down. So if you're aging it in a dry area, where the humidity is really low, then your proof is going to go up. If you're aging it in an area where the humidity is high, then your proof is going to go down. So our plan is when we get our distillery built in Kentucky, we're going to have a special aging room where we can control the temperature and the humidity, and that will allow us to age our small batch cask strength stuff or small batch programs, and we'll be able to control a little bit of the temperature and humidity, which will give us a little bit more of those higher proof points, which I think those are they're an interesting topic, and the whiskey tastes even better at those higher proofs. So we do have some special products coming in the future. We're hoping to come out with our straight bourbon here pretty soon. It's just over 2 years old. We're hoping to have it on the market possibly later this summer. Nice. And the cask strength won't be for a little while. We're going to let it age a little longer. And we're looking at when we open our distillery, we're hoping that we'll have 2 other brands to go along with the Belfour brand. We'll make all that whiskey out of our distillery, and just like some of the larger distilleries in Kentucky, they have multiple brands. Our plan is to have 3 total brands.
That's pretty awesome.
Great. So where can people find your whiskey right now?
Yeah, so right now we're in Illinois. We started there. We're in Texas. We're in North Dakota, South Dakota. We're going to be in Missouri here pretty soon, Tennessee pretty soon. We're looking at Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Kentucky, and we're going to be in Arizona here pretty soon, and later this year in Canada. Next year, we're hoping to open in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 more states. You try to open as many as you can, but we only have so many team members right now. Right now on our team, we have 10 of us that have to do all these states. So we don't have enough people, and it just takes a little time to get eventually where we want to go all across North America. And then from there, we want to go to different countries.
Awesome. And what's your guys' website, just so people can learn a little bit more about you guys?
Yeah, BelfourSpirits.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and so just check us out. We have some interesting stories on there. We have a Legends page where I had the opportunity to interview Glenn Hall, famous Blackhawk goalie.
Wow. Nice.
I was at a Kinsman event a few months back before the Corona hit, and it was in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and they had 5 Hall of Famers come in: Glenn Hall, Grant Fear, Marty Brodeur, Bernie Pront, and myself.
Oh, wow.
And we spent the weekend there and just had so much fun with those guys. And there was like, I think 750 people showed up for the Kinsman dinner, and, you know, they helped raise money for all the local charities and local hockey, and, you know, really promote, you know, youth sports and youth hockey there. And that the Kinsmen, you know, they're a great group. They're all across Canada. You know, they helped pay for a lot of my hockey equipment when I was a kid, and all my goalie equipment. So a great group. And I got to interview Glenn Hall while I was there. He's our first legend that we got to interview, and I did the interview myself. So that was a lot of fun. So you go to belfourspirits.com and check out the interview with Glenn Hall.
Yeah, we will put the links to all that too, and all the description in our social media for this as well. So we're at our, you know, time limit here. Before I let you go, I do got to ask you a question here. We have a mutual friend in Dave O'Connor, and for anybody listening that isn't from the South Side of Chicago, he is just an absolute local legend. You know, shows up to the local rinks playing rad hockey like it's Game 7, ready to go. Do you have any story that you may be able to share with us to, you know, to kind of help grow his legend a little bit more?
Well, Dave, he's a wonderful, loyal friend. You know, he's always helped myself and my kids and the Belfour family. Any of my friends were his friends. You know, he's always been a huge supporter of anything we did, and I always thought of him as my personal bodyguard. You know, he'd always go with me places and look out for me, and, you know, he's pretty scrappy too. Like, he may not look like much, but you don't want to mess with Dave, I'll tell you that. And he's got a pretty mean slap shot too. So had a chance to play some shinny games with him in Southside there. And I'm like, hey, Dave, why don't you just drop it down a few notches? Like, he's so intense.
My first experience, I was like maybe 14, 15 years old at the rat hockey, and I go in the corner, and all of a sudden I just get tossed, and I look up, and he just always says, "Keep your head up, kid," and just skates away.
Yeah, that's
Jesus.
Dave for sure.
That's amazing.
I love him.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. Absolutely amazing stories. You know, we are big fans of your career, you know, growing up Chicago, watching you play in the 90s with us. It's a shame you couldn't win here and, you know, stay with the Hawks longer, but I'm very glad that I grew up watching you play. I really appreciate you coming on, and wish you the best of luck with Belfour Spirits, and stay safe out there.
It's been quite a pleasure.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys, and check out Garfield's, and you know, they're carrying our stuff, and Kenwood's also, and Benny's, you know.
I've been trying to look up the closest one for me.
Yeah, they don't have it at all the Benny's, but you know, you can go in there and tell them you want Belfour Spirits, and tell them they need to carry it. That'd be very helpful for us. Thanks so much for having me today, guys.
Hey, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure's all on this side.
Yep. Take care.
You as well, though.